Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us on this Friday afternoon or Friday morning if you're still on the West Coast. Today's webinar is going to be great. We've got a couple of great speakers. My name is John Elkin. I'm the Director of Client Services here at OMX, and I'm just going to be hosting the webinar. I'm going to be turning it over very shortly to Chris Sharpenko from the Build in Canada Innovation Program, who's going to be taking us through an overview of the program itself, and then we're going to be flipping it over to John Wright, the chairman of JPOM, to provide a little bit of commentary and a little bit of background on how SMEs can really take advantage of the program. Question and answers can be asked throughout the webinar. Feel free to write them in through the GoToWebinar application. I'm going to be monitoring those, and if we do have some questions that are coming up during Chris's presentation, he's advised that he's going to be able to answer those as we go. But we're also going to have some time at the end to run through some questions and answers. So if anything is confusing, if you want more information, don't hesitate to reach out. All of your questions are also going to be automatically recorded, so if we don't get to them in time during the webinar, I'll be able to pass those on directly to Chris or John, along with your contact information, and they'll be able to reach back out to you after the fact. But we should hopefully be able to get through everything today on the webinar. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Chris from the Build in Canada Innovation Program to take us through the actual program.
Great, thanks so much, John, and thanks to everyone that's taking their time on Friday to come join and learn a bit about the program. As John said, feel free to send your questions to him, and he can pop in as the presentation's going. Can kind of keep an open dialogue if you have any questions on specific slides. I'm going to start off with a short video that we've recently put together, had a company put together for the program. Gives a little bit of a brief overview. Hopefully it doesn't steal too much of my thunder for the rest of the presentation. But any feedback you have on the video would be appreciated. But we'll start with that, and then I'll move into the deck, and I'll try and get through that at a decent time, and then John Wright is going to present after me, and we'll have some time for Q&A after, but we'll keep the session open. So here's the video, and then we'll get started after that.
Historically, Canadians have led the way in creating innovative products that have changed the world. Have you created something truly cutting-edge and innovative? Something that hasn't hit the market yet? Do you see business opportunities on the horizon? Don't call the dragons. We want to know about it first. We're the Build in Canada Innovation Program, and we can help you get your first sale. If you build it and it's truly innovative and cutting edge, there's a real good chance we'll buy it, and our colleagues in the Government of Canada will help you test it. Why would the Government of Canada help you test your innovation? Because innovation is good for Canada. We want to give Canadian businesses a boost. If you're an innovator, we want to be your first customer. You submit your application. We accept proposals 24/7, 365 days a year. Our colleagues over at the National Research Council will evaluate your submission using a set of standard requirements. If your submission is truly innovative and meets the requirements, we'll put it on our approved testing list. Then we'll get to work at matching you with the right partner in government who can put your innovation to the test. Sort of like a dating site for genius innovators and fearless testers. Or if you already have a government partner lined up and they've expressed interest in testing your innovation, then you can bring that partner along. Either way, once you're matched up, you'll have a dedicated testing partner. Do you have a green technology to put to the test? Maybe Environment and Climate Change Canada or Parks Canada can help. If your innovation is ready for testing in outer space, the Canadian Space Agency may be able to lend a hand. These are just a few examples of departments that could become your customer. Your testing partner will put your innovation through the ringer and push its limits. If your innovation survives the testing, or even if it doesn't, we'll provide you with our honest feedback on how well it works and how to make it even better. You wind up with a successfully tested product, your innovation's first sale, and you can tell all your friends and potential clients that the Government of Canada bought and tested your innovation, and that can open a ton of doors for you too. Canadian innovators, the Government of Canada is ready to put your innovation to the test and pay you for it. Find out if your innovation is ready for the Build in Canada Innovation Program right here.
All right, so that's our new video that we're launching, and that happens to be our video for what we call the innovator side of things. We are going to be putting together a video, or we are in the process of putting together a video as well for our potential testing partners, and part of the video will be the same, but the rest of the video will have a little bit more of a testing department side of things. So it gives you a brief overview, and now we'll move into a little bit more detail here. So as John mentioned, my name is Chris Sharpenko. I am the manager of what we call the innovation management team within the Building Canada Innovation Program, and my responsibility is largely once companies have applied to the program and are pre-qualified in, so they've been accepted into the program, then my team manages the life cycle of that innovation from right from the get-go, from finding a partner to test and the development of the test plan and through contracting and then through testing as well, right through to the feedback stage. So really the project management side of the program. So yeah, we'll get going. So for those of you who know about the program, a bit of this might be repetitive. For those of you that don't, I'll try and give a bit of an overview here. So the program was made permanent in 2012 after undergoing a pilot phase for a few years. It was determined it would be made permanent, and in 2016-2017, this fiscal year, we have $30 million of potential funding for testing, and as of next year we will have $40 million of funding. How the process works, so this is a procurement process where the government buys innovative pre-commercial goods and services, and we look to buy those so that we can test them within the federal government in an operational environment, and we like to think of this as a win-win. So businesses have this opportunity to take the next step, have their first innovation sale of that innovation, have it tested in a real-world environment, and then the government gets to be a tester and try out new things that aren't currently available on the market, and they have the benefit of seeing what they are and accessing things that they maybe wouldn't have accessed before. So, why participate in the BCIP? It's a good question on both ends. On the innovator side, there are a number of benefits. So by participating, you will receive feedback on how the innovation is tested. While you're testing your innovation with a department, you're going to have back and forth interaction as this is going on. So there'll be informal feedback, and depending on the relationship that you've established with the testing department, it can be in more detail if you would like. When testing is complete, there are surveys provided from the testing department that provides feedback on what they thought of the innovation and all of that. So it's beneficial. One of the things I really like to stress with innovators is, you have this opportunity to really try your innovation and sell it without going into the marketplace specifically and potentially having an issue with the product and then not being able to come back from that, because after you've sold commercially and if there is a problem with the innovation, it might kind of leave a permanent stain on the record for that product. So this really allows you, we are still in the R&D portion of the testing, and so if something does go wrong and you need to fix it or adjust as you're testing, that is acceptable and it's not going to be held against you. You get to make your first reference sale and you'll be able to use that. We found that super valuable not only within government, but when you're moving out to sell to the private sector, and especially with foreign governments. We've had a lot of success and we've tried to help make connections there, but showing that you can sell to your domestic government really does help when looking outside the borders. And then there's looking on how to sell with government. For many of the companies that have taken part in the program, they maybe haven't ever done business with government, and It's not always easy, and if you're coming and trying to get on a standing offer, or if you're bidding on something through a request for proposals, you don't have someone holding your hand throughout the process. You really don't. You're on your own, and it might be a trial and error situation. In this process, if you are qualified through the program, you're going to have someone on my team, an innovation management advisor, who's going to be helping you along the way. And our contracting team does provide a lot more assistance with people in our program. So you're going to learn how to do business with government, and you're going to be able to take that moving forward. So we do find that to be beneficial. I won't get too much details on the testing department side, given the audience that I think we're working with, but I have touched on that a bit. So by the numbers, this is where we are. So since program launch in 2010, we've had 287 qualified, pre-qualified innovations into the program, which is very exciting for us. That number is growing every day. We actually just had one that qualified today. 250 unique companies. So as you can see, there's some companies that have participated more than once in the program. We do have one, maybe two companies that have now had 3 successful pre-qualifications. One is just in the current phase of moving towards contracting, so they'll have 3 awarded contracts, which is great. They came in through call 2, 4, and now 6. 214 actually. This hasn't been updated in a few days. So 214 awarded contracts for just over 75 million. As discussed, most of the companies that have come in are small and medium-sized enterprises, but we are open to large enterprises as well. And there isn't a preference in place. This is really just in line with the ecosystem that we know exists in Canada in general, largely SMEs, but we are open to all sizes of businesses. And today we've had 30 federal government organizations testing, many of which have tested many times. So proposals must follow into the mandatory criteria. So we have a mandatory criteria phase and then a point rated phase. So the mandatory criteria phase is more yes/no type eligibility. So you must not have been sold commercially before for your product, not your company. Your company can be commercialized, but the specific innovation you're applying to the program must not have been sold commercially. Beta testing is available. Small beta sales are typically available, are typically okay, but you must not have been sold commercially before. You must be a Canadian bidder, and the product that the software or hardware must have 80% Canadian content, and there is a calculation for figuring this out that you can learn more about within our solicitation and on our website. But largely that's the value of the end product. And if you are producing that product here in Canada and which usually is required to meet that content, then there's usually not a problem with that 80% because most of the value is going to be here. We understand that a portion might be if you're getting your nuts and bolts overseas or things like that, that's to be expected. You must show IP ownership or rights. So what this means is it must be yours, your product. You either have a patent or you have the IP ownership, or you have the rights to the IP ownership. So portions of your innovation, you may have rights to be using other people's IP, and if that's the case, you must show that you have those rights or that you have a plan in place to acquire those rights. We have 2 streams. We have the military stream and the standard stream. Largely, they're the same. The biggest difference, which would be the fact that test plans coming in under the standard stream can be valued up to $500,000 pre-tax, and under the military it's $1 million. The major reason for this is because a lot of the technologies that we find are coming through the military stream are more expensive and are more expensive to produce, or the tests might be more expensive. But that's largely the difference. We have 4 priority areas within the standard stream, which I will touch on. It's actually on our next slide here. Environment, health, enabling technologies, and safety and security. These are meant to be inclusive, broad. I have personally never seen an innovation that did not get through because they did not fit in one of these broad buckets. So they are meant to be inclusive. On the military side, we have 6 military priority areas, and these are right here, and we have cybersecurity, command and support, in-service support, protecting the soldier, Arctic and Marine, and training systems. Once again, these are meant to be largely inclusive areas of need for the military, as well as areas that have been established as being a competitive advantage for Canadians as well. So in terms of where we're at, those are the mandatory, and then we get into a screening point rated if you pass the mandatory criteria for readiness, commercialization, capacity, test plan, and then innovation, and I'll touch on that a little bit more as we go through the deck. Once again, if you do have any questions, feel free to pop in. I'm going through this pretty quickly. So how the program works. There's a lot going on this slide, but this is really the life cycle of where you're at from start to finish. So we have an online submission process. We use a continuous intake model, which means we have an open call for proposals. You can bid 24/7, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So that's great. If you have something ready, go apply today. We're ready to take those applications anytime. We do have an online submission platform, fully online, so no paper. First in, first end, possibly still the only in government that operates that way. So you will go on to the website. You can click on apply, set up an online account, which is pretty straightforward, and get going, and then you would submit online. It's also evaluated online, and you'll get your results online as well. So the proposal submission, once you've clicked submit, NRC IRAP evaluates the proposals. So we have a proposal grid, and they assign to two technology advisors that they try and best match your submission with an expert in that field. It's not always a perfect match, but we're trying to match you. They have over 100 evaluators, and we try and do a best fit match. There's two outcomes from that. One would be that you are successfully pre-qualified in the program, which is exciting, and then you would be moved along to my team. And if you are not successful, you will get a proposal debrief, which will give you some information as to where your proposal was deemed not to pass. The great thing that we have now is you can use that proposal debrief, make adjustments to your proposal, and you are eligible to resubmit at any time. We have quite a high success rate on resubmissions. So I do always encourage companies that when you've gotten your feedback on a debrief, if you haven't been successful, to take that debrief and make an adjustment and resubmit. Once you're pre-qualified into the program, we would work on finding a partner for you. If you already have a partner in mind, even better, makes my job easier. We can move forward with developing a test plan with you, and signing we do an MOU with the testing department between our department, and we can move forward with that. After we have those plans in place, we ship your information to the contracting team, and the contracting team works with you to develop a contract, because as discussed, this is a procurement program, and so we will be putting a contract, and you will be awarded a contract before testing starts. Once that contract's awarded, it'll largely be like any other contract that you would have to deliver on a service. You would be delivering your product or service, and as those milestones are met within your test plan, you would invoice the program, and we would validate the invoice, and we would pay you for your invoice when that's validated. So yeah, that's generally how the process works. Slightly different on the military side. We also work with what's called the Defense Validation Committee at D&D, the Department of National Defense, and they help us with the matching on the military side. But in general, the process is largely the same.
Chris, we've actually had a couple of questions come up. If you want to take a second.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, so one question that came in is how does a company show IP ownership for innovations where there's no business case for obtaining a patent?
That's a good question, and I will say that it's one of these, I don't want to call it gray areas, but it can be a little tricky at times. So we if there was no business case, or it's in an area where, potentially it wouldn't be something that's necessary for that product, then you might not need it. But you would want to explain that operating in this environment does not require a patent or IP ownership. And I don't have a specific example on hand, but I should think of one. But generally, you might not need a patent or IP ownership, depending on what you are. And I know the software space is a little tricky when it comes to this. Not everything's patentable, or many folks are operating in that. But you want to have a strategy in place. You don't want to be applying. We want to know that we're not going to be issuing a contract to you for something that someone else could just do tomorrow, and then all of a sudden, it's not really innovative. So it's a case-by-case basis, but it's upon the company to explain if it isn't necessary, or it is in an environment where something would be obtained, then that would be their strategy, and they would be providing that.
Perfect. And then another one that's come in is just asking around typical turnaround times from submittal to start of testing, and within that, are IRAP supported projects fast-tracked at all?
That's a very good question, and we get that question probably every time I do the presentation. So I'll go back to this slide. First I'll touch on the NRC IRAP projects, or people that previously are working with NRC IRAP. I will say there's no preference or fast tracking available for them, unfortunately, because it's a call for proposals situation. It's open to everyone, and it's set equally for everyone. I will note as well, if you are working with an NRC IRAP evaluator or ITA, that would not be the person that would be evaluating your bid, and that's also for transparency purposes, so that all is kept equal. Now, on the timelines process, from bid submission, we're working right now at a 8 to 10 week time frame. I would say more on the 10-week time frame from when you've clicked submit to when you know if your proposal's been accepted or not accepted. So if you've been pre-qualified, or you'll be getting a proposal debrief as to why not, that's 10 weeks. Once you come in, if you already have a match in place, the timelines are accelerated quite a lot, because we can then just start working with your testing partner to develop the statement of work, and we can put together the MOU. We always encourage companies, once you've submitted, or even prior to submission, to go out and start talking to government about what you have, explain that you are interested in participating in the program, and if you are successful through the program, would they be interested in testing. You can start doing this at any time, and then if you are successful in getting through, we can match. And from there, contracting is usually a 6-week time frame, and then testing lasts anywhere from a few days, depending on the test. We usually try and keep initial tests within 12 months. Now, I think the part that people are really interested in is from when they collect, or when they click submit, to when a contract is awarded, so when testing would start. Our aim is 6 months. We're usually looking from submission to contracting. Our goal is 6 months. These timelines can be a little bit quicker in terms of if you come in with a pre-match and we are engaged on the testing department side and on the innovator side to really move with the test plan. We can accelerate those. Also, once you get to contracting, you're going to be in a situation where you're doing price support, so you're validating all the pricing within your test plan. Why does your product cost this much? And if you're responsive to contracting, those timelines can also be accelerated. But our program goal, and on average, we're looking at 6 months, a little bit quicker and a little bit longer, depending on the engagement on both sides. Those are usually the timelines we're looking at.
All right, and just a follow-on question on coming in with a sort of a pre-match. Is there anything that a bidder would need to do, to notify the department that they are going through the BCIP application process, or is there sort of anything that those bidders need to have in place from the pre-qualified partner to show you guys during that submission or after they're pre-qualified?
Another good question. So there, people frequently ask us, if I already have a match, it's kind of like the NRCI wrap, if I'm already working with them, if I already have a match, is there an advantage? The advantage isn't on the evaluation side, so there won't be bonus points given to someone that already has a match. Although I will say a portion, if I go back here, actually I can move forward here, this is how proposals are evaluated. Once you get through the mandatories, there's 4-point rated portions of the evaluation. As you can see, one of those is test plan. I find that companies that have a match already or have been discussing how they would test their innovation with companies, or sorry, with departments, they usually are able to have a more robust test plan within their evaluation. Now, a hypothetical test plan is not going to be judged any lower than an actual test plan that you've established with a company. Both are viable test plans and they'll be evaluated equally. But I find that usually the test plans do come across more planned out and clearer when you've worked with a department already, or when you've had that discussion on how this might work. If you come through pre-qualified and you've already been working with a department, usually the day or the day after you get your letter saying you've been pre-qualified, successful into the program, you're going to be getting a call from someone on my team. And one of the first questions we're going to ask is, do you already have a testing partner in mind, or is there someone that you've been talking to previously that might be interested? And if you do have someone, that's going to be the first person that we're going to call. If that testing partner is interested in testing, then we would work with them right away. So that would already be established, and we wouldn't try and match you elsewhere. We would work with a partner that you've already developed a relationship with.
Great. Well, I think that's all the questions for now, so I'll let you get back to the deck.
Perfect. And I think we're doing okay for time right now?
Yep.
Perfect. Okay. So this is the technology readiness level is the space that we're working in. We work in space 7 to 9, and not everyone is aware of technology readiness level. So basically what it means is you have a working prototype ready for demonstration in an operational environment would be the bottom end. We're buying something, so we need something that we can purchase and that we can use somewhere in an operational environment. So that's the bottom level. If you don't have something that you can deliver on, you might not quite be ready to be in the program, and which I would say continue development, and when you do have a working prototype ready for testing, come back and apply to the program. On the top end, 9 means you're probably pretty close to moving to market. You're just knocking on the door of commercialization. You may be ready, for producing more units, or you might have things shored up, but you just haven't commercialized yet. Well, then you're right at the top end. So anywhere within there, you're eligible for applying to the program. Now, I mentioned before one of the point-rated criteria, and what we're looking for within the program is it's called an advance on state-of-the-art. And what this really means is that you're applying to the program with something that isn't commercially available at this time. So we're looking for cutting-edge new products. Now, on the left side of this slide, you'll see an invention of a new process. I always like to use the wheel. If you've invented the wheel or you've invented the light bulb, you have a new product, you are certainly eligible in terms of advance on state-of-the-art. Welcome to the program. In terms of that eligibility, you'll still have to meet the other criteria, but you're in good shape. What's more likely, and what we see most likely, is that you're going to have a significant modification on an existing technology applied somewhere that possibly hasn't been applied before, or an improvement to an existing technology representing a significant patentable progress in cost, functionality, or performance. So you've taken something, you've made it better. You have an example. You have something that works, in the normal environment, but now you've invented something that works in -60. That's great. Or you have a software, and your software functionality works in an environment that previously didn't work. That's usually where we're operating. But the key thing here is that it's not commercially available on the marketplace. So I briefly went over this, how proposals are evaluated. So we have innovation, which was just discussed on the previous slide, must demonstrate that the innovation is advanced on state of the art. We have the test plan, which I went over. You want to have an understanding of where you're going to test it, what your objectives are. You have to have an understanding of all of that, realistic timelines. You can't be coming in saying we want to have a 5-year test. You know, as discussed, we want to have a realistic test plan. You have to have a commercialization strategy. So you must demonstrate that there's sufficient market potential for this innovation. So we're looking to support innovations that that have a potential to be successful. It doesn't mean we're not willing to take somewhat of a risk. You know, we're still in the R&D space and we're understanding that this hasn't been proven, but at the same time, we want you to have an understanding that there is a market out there for your product, that you are developing something that there are customers out there for, and we want you to have an understanding of what that is and that you have a plan to get there. And then last, benefits. You must demonstrate that there's that the innovation provides financial and non-financial benefits to Canadian society or the testing department or both. And that's a little broad, and you'd be able to see these questions if you go to our website and open up the application. So this is what happens once you're pre-qualified, and I already went through this, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on here. This is pretty much the work that my team does for you. Like I mentioned, we find a partner, we develop a statement of work, we sign an MOU, you get a contract, testing, and then there's feedback. Now, I will say it's important that we touch on what the program covers. So the program covers the innovation. So this is, if it's a hardware, we're buying the innovation. If it's a very expensive hardware, we may be leasing the innovation. If you have something that costs more than $500,000 or $1 million within your stream, then we may set up a lease so that we can, you know, still use the good, but there wouldn't be enough cap space to buy it, so we are flexible in that way. We pay for shipping. You know, if you're located on the East Coast and your test is on the West Coast, we'll ship the product over there. Anywhere in the country, we're eligible for shipping. We'll pay for the installation costs, the training that you're going to have to provide to the testing department. I will say as well, ongoing support that you have. We'll pay for any travel that you as the contractor needs to travel. If you have to go on site 3 times throughout the test, we will pay for that as well. All of that's paid for as eligible expenses, as long as you're staying within the 500,000 and 1 million test space. And once again, that's pre-tax. So here's the testing partners that we've worked with so far. Our largest testing department without a doubt is D&D. A big part of that is, well, D&D's huge. They do a lot of different things. They have a lot of operational environments. As well, we have a military stream, which they have first right of refusal for, which basically means if you bid through the military stream, D&D gets the first chance to look at it and see if they want to test it. If they don't, we can still look for a testing partner at any other department. Adversely, innovations that come through the standard stream are also eligible to test with D&D. So it goes both ways. It doesn't mean if you come through one stream. We have many innovations that have come through the standard stream, but we found a testing partner with D&D. Fisheries and Oceans, National Research Council, our department, Public Services and Procurement Canada, RCMP, all big testing partners, but we've tested with many departments, and we're always looking to expand on our testing partners. So this is a new portion, additional sales. I like to call it additional testing. This was added to the program when we launched Call 6 last year in the summer. So this is for follow-on tests. What this really means is if you already have a contract in place, the first contract is on us. The program pays for it. But if there's other partners out there, other departments that are interested in testing, and they have a budget in place to test, they can also go through the program and we will do the contracting, but if they have the budget, they would be paying for the second test. And so we have an opportunity for follow-on tests. They still fall within the R&D testing space, but you can do up to 3 follow-on tests up to the limit of your original contract, and this provides more opportunities for our companies to test within the federal government. Here's a few of our success stories, and for the purpose of time, I won't focus on them too much. 2G Robotics happens to be the company that has been through now 3 times. Very interesting company. We have spring-loaded bionic knee. This was a knee brace that was developed and tested by D&D, and this was to relieve the stress and allow soldiers to carry more weight, take the stress off their knees. They can go for a longer time. This company has done really well, and they've gotten a lot of publicity after being part of the program. Arion Scout is a UAV, another super interesting company. And then we have the Q6 space processor is another innovation. And we have a number of success stories. If anyone's interested, we can provide more success stories following this. Depending on where you're calling in from or who you're involved, we do have regional offices across the country. As you can see on the map, we have the Office of Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises, where the program is located within Public Services and Procurement Canada, has these offices across the country. And so you can work with someone locally if you'd like to meet up, or they provide seminars on the program. And generally, they provide information on how to do business with government if you just have an interest in that as well. So that's always a great resource. And for more information, you can find information on buyandsell.gc.ca/innovation. This would be our homepage. You can apply to the program there. There's great information there. I will say, currently we're in Call 6. Call 6 will be coming to an end at the beginning of January, and we'll be launching Call 7. The call will largely stay the same. There's not going to be much difference. We've made a few administrative changes. We're calling it a refresh, but it's still going to be an open call and come at the beginning of January. If there's not any other further questions, I will pass it over to John, who can introduce other John. Hello?
Hello.
John?
I'm here.
Okay, so you're up.
Hey, well, what a wonderful introduction. I love that. Thank you. Hey, good afternoon, folks. I'm going to make this very brief because it is Friday afternoon, and I have a pretty simple message for you. I think Chris's program's all about. And, here's government giving money away 3 weeks before Christmas, and the guy who's giving it away is called Chris. So this doesn't get much better than that. Yeah? What I want to do in my short presentation is merely talk to the issues that will maximize your probability of getting an application accepted. So with that, John, can you fire up the first slide?
Yep, here we go.
Okay. Yeah, well, that's a dull and boring one. Let's do the next one. Okay, that looks good. This is a pretty simple slide. So Chris has given you a very good understanding of what the current program's all about. For those who have been staying awake for the last 6 years, you'll know that this program has been around under 2 different names since 2010. And as Chris outlined, in its existence, it has been very, very successful for those companies that have been aware of it and made best use of it. And and as Chris pointed out, there's companies in there have used this program 3 times, where there are still companies in Canada who are unaware of the program itself, so they're missing the boat. So what I want to do is provide you very briefly some observations from myself, who has worked with a number of companies that have been successful under both the CICP and the BCIP programs. So next slide. Okay, so the reason why this program exists is because we, industry, asked for it. Canadian government was very kind back in 2008, 2009 in listening to industry's continual complaint that every time a company, especially a small company, tries to export its products, normally when you go to international marketplaces, the first question you get asked is, who in Canada is actually using your product? And the answer of nobody isn't exactly well received. So the program was initially invented to basically launch the Government of Canada as your flagship customer. A customer not only buys your product, but tests it and certifies it for you, and is preferred to testify to your international clients that it's really good stuff. That is exactly what we asked for, and that's exactly what we got. So it's incumbent upon us, industry, to make the very best use of this program. Next slide. Once again, I may repeat some of the things that Chris said in detail, but I wanted to spell it out to you in reasonably plain and simple language. This is not a research and development program. This is, if you need R&D money, there are many other federal and provincial programs you can look to support your R&D investments. This is a program about a product or a service that you consider to be innovative, that you've invested your own time and money in developing, so you've got skin in the game, and now you want someone to help you take it into the commercial environment. If you're at that stage, this program is built for you. And what it delivers to you is the one thing that you can't get by yourself. You may have great marketing organizations and stuff like that, but what you get here by getting the Canadian government to purchase your product, test it, and validate it is credibility. And we all know that that's very, very hard to buy. So, next slide. So what I just said, I think, should greatly encourage you to look at submitting an application. So now you need to maximize the probability that your application will be accepted by Chris and his team. Understand very clearly that this program is, I think, very wisely set up a very sophisticated and very efficient mechanism to review and validate the applications it receives. It makes extensive uses of the National Research Council's IRAP technology officers, such that when you submit an application, it will be reviewed by someone who is a true subject matter expert. He or she will probably know as much about your business as you do, and therefore you be very wise to make sure that what you put in this application is accurate, pertinent, and very concise, in as much as what Chris didn't point out is when you go to an online application, they've established some very sensible word limitations for each section. So we can't waffle on endlessly about what we want to do. We need to get to the real meat of what it is we plan to do. Second note there, certainly do your homework. Don't spend 30 minutes filling in this application. Spend a couple of days. Put it up as a draft, review it, make sure it says what you really want it to say. Make sure you really believe in it, and then you maximize your probability of success. And thirdly, don't submit an idea to this program that you're not already committed to, something that you're already determined you're going to do. Don't use BCIP as something that just tips you over the edge. What it's intended to do is to make sure you maximize your probability of success. It doesn't want to lure you into making an investment in a program which only has minimal chances of success. Next slide, John. So some ideas here. First of all, first and foremost, do your homework. make sure that you really know what you're talking about before you submit an application. Demonstrate to the government that BCIP will make a fundamental difference to the project that you're proposing. Make sure you spell that out clearly within your proposal. And lastly, demonstrate, one, a comprehensive understanding of competitive forces, and make sure you present those in a highly objective fashion. Most of us in our day-to-day businesses tend to puff up our chests and brag a lot a bit about our own technology. But in doing these competitive analyses, you need to demonstrate that you do clearly understand the strengths and the weaknesses of your competition as well. Next slide. Okay, the acronym BCIP. The I is innovation. Don't present anything to the government that doesn't really possess that key ingredient. I've worked with companies in the past that tried to take established ideas and kind of spin them over a little bit and make them look like they're innovative. That, in my estimation, will not work, because the NRC ITO review mechanism will catch that, so it will waste your time and it will waste their time. The real key ingredient of this program is to make Canadian companies, small and large, successful in the international marketplaces that we lust after. Just make sure your proposal highlights that potential. Once again, now we're talking about global marketplaces. You need to demonstrate you understand your knowledge of those marketplaces. You need to demonstrate that you have a sound strategy to get into those marketplaces, that BCIP will actually truly assist you to do. So that's the simple thing. We industry asked for this program. We received it. Initially, it was launched as a very much a trial program, and I think if I remember correctly, the original custodians, OSME, were given $20 million a year to hand out, and I think that program lasted 2 years. It was then converted to a permanent program because of its success, and since then, its annual budget has been incremented, I think, on an annual basis. So once again, government sees success in this program. I think industry sees success as well, and it's incumbent upon us to make sure that we don't screw it up. So I think that's the end of my presentation. Thanks.
Perfect. Thanks so much, John. We've had a couple more questions come in, so in the few minutes we have remaining here, I'm just going to put those back to yourself and Chris. So, Chris, we've had a couple of questions come in regarding testing partners, and people want to know if it's possible to use a testing partner outside of government. So, say a prime contractor in the defense community that has D&D approval. Could someone like that function as a testing partner for the program?
Okay, we're getting some good questions. People are paying attention, so I like to hear that. So the program is set up to be doing testing within the federal government, and actually there's a slight nuance on that. It's Schedule 1 and 2 federal departments, so actually Crown corporations are not included in that as well. But we do have the ability to test with end testing groups that are not federal departments, but what we require is a federal department to provide what we call sponsorship or oversight to this test. So really the way it would work is, and you know, a few times we're not, I don't know that it's very often or that it's recommended or encouraged for us to be having the third party tester be a private organization, so a company. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it might be a bit more challenging. But we do have, for instance, provincial partners, municipal partners, universities that have tested with us. They've all, I've tested with the City of High River in Calgary. We've tested with the City of Ottawa. Testing going on at Guelph University. And what ends up happening with these third-party tests, what we call them, is the department. An example would be happens to be that I have a test going on at a hospital in Toronto, and the oversight department is actually Canadian Space Agency, because the technology that's being tested by them is of interest to CSA. So CSA is still the department that we sign on with, and then what happens is they sign an agreement with that end user, the third party. We call that a third party agreement, which basically indicates that the lead department is testing, but they're having the third party test on their behalf. And for the most part, we do this in situations where maybe the lead department doesn't have facilities like a hospital, or if this has to be tested at something at the provincial level or at a university, and so they would test on their behalf. So third-party testing is possible, but we still need a federal department to provide oversight.
Great. And we've had a couple of other questions as well regarding the shipping of goods across the country. So if someone's applying for the military stream and D&D wants to test the item, but perhaps it's at a sort of an overseas operation, is shipping covered on that if it's testing at somewhere overseas that D&D is operating, or is it all done just within the borders of Canada?
Geez, these are good questions. So yes, it is possible for shipping to be covered elsewhere. We are testing with the federal government department, or with the federal government. So if there are operations elsewhere and it makes sense, and this is going to be a case-by-case basis, but if I'm not mistaken, one of our innovations was tested or is currently undergoing tested at a Canadian embassy in, is it Berlin? It's not my specific innovation, but someone on my team is managing it. But it is being tested at a embassy in Germany, and so we would have covered the expenses for shipping it there. So it is possible, yes. The short answer would be yes. It's going to be case by case, and if it was crazy expensive, we might have to take that into consideration. But in general, reasonable expenses, yes, that would be covered as well.
Great. And final question that has come in is regarding sort of what you were talking about under the tools where you can get additional sales. So if someone has a product in from an earlier call 4 or call 5, and there's interest from one of the government departments, are they able to go back through now and get additional sales through that process?
So there is potentially. So there is a window of eligibility for additional sales. So and the main reason that we have that window in place is we are working with innovative companies, and too many years out from when the innovation applied, it may not have a strong case for being innovative. So it really depends. It's changed. So as it stands right now within the new innovations, it's 2 years from when you've qualified into the program. There was a little bit more of a complicated calculation done for calls 4 and 5. It was 2 years from contract award for everything awarded before a certain date, and then after that it was 2 years from a different date. We can find specific dates for specific innovations. The window for call 4s is pretty much closed. I think the deadline is actually December 5th, so probably the end of this week. For many of those where the additional sales window will be closing. Some will be open past that. I guess that's a long-winded answer to say there's from when you've qualified in, there is a window of time, a couple years, for when you can look to get additional sales. You have your original test could have ended now, and there could be time in between when that test is done, and you'll still have the ability to have a different department test your innovation under additional sales.
Great. Well, thanks so much, Chris and John. I think we're just about out of time here, so I think I'm gonna cap it off there. But if anyone didn't have their question answered, don't worry. I'll be sure to have recorded that, and I'll pass it along to both Chris and John, and they'll be able to reach out to you directly with any follow-on questions you had or any other additional information that you might require. So just want to say thanks again to everyone for taking some time out of their Fridays for joining us today, especially to our two presenters today, Chris Sharpenko from BCIP and John Wright from JPOM. So thanks again, gentlemen, and I hope everyone has a great rest of your Friday and a great weekend.
Thanks so much. This was great.
Yep, cheers.